Today we're going to be talking about each and every phase that is in Army basic training, whether it's yellow phase, red phase, white phase, or blue phase. We're going to give you guys a little overview of what you can expect from each of the phases. But without further ado, let's get to it. What is up, guys? Ben Allen back again with another video, and like I just said, we're going to be talking about the phases in Army basic training, right? There used to be 3, now there's 4 because they implemented the new yellow phase because of the whole coronavirus situation. So it's going to be a great video, guys. Before we jump into it though, some background information on me for those of you that are new here. My name is Ben Allen Alvarado. I did 4 years active duty in the Army as a 68 Whiskey. I got out in September 2019. Did the civilian thing for about a month or 2 and was like, I miss the military, so I rejoined up in the reserves, the Army Reserves. I've been doing that for about a year now and some change, so I have that active duty knowledge and that reserve knowledge. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask me. The best way to get a hold of me is either in the comment section down below, or even better is through my Instagram at Ben_Allen175. It's the best possible place to reach me. Drop a follow, send me a DM. I'll try to get back to you within a couple days, because they do get backed up sometimes. I got to go through each and every one, give you guys some good answers. But with all that being said, guys, if you're new here, you're getting ready to go to basic training, you're excited for basic training, be sure to smash the like button. It really helps us out. And most importantly, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That helps us out as well. It takes 2 seconds. You just click the button and you're good. It's great. It helps us grow, and we're trying to hit 30K in like the next month or 2. So let's make it happen. Let's smash the goal. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump straight into the topic, right? One of the biggest questions I've been getting asked is, is basic training longer now because of yellow phase and the whole COVID situation? And to answer that, no. It's pretty much just they shortened, some of the phases to include this yellow phase, right? So yellow phase is going to be weeks 1 through 2, red phase is 3 to 4, and then white phase is 5 to 7, and blue phase is 8, 9, and 10, right? All the way up to your graduation. So, jumping into the yellow phase, right? Like, how's it going to go down? What's it going to do? They kind of it's like a hybrid, really, in my personal opinion. They've taken some of the phases, some of the things you'd be learning in like blue phase and some of the red phase stuff, and kind of put this like classroom environment together in the yellow phase, right? So it starts off, like a normal basic training. You get the shakedown, right? They check your stuff. This is where you can throw away things you're not supposed to have. Maybe you have like candy or, a knife or some sort of like weapon, or just things you're not supposed to have at basic training in general. This is where you can, hey, throw it away, cool, you'll be fine. But if you keep it, they find it later, you're gonna be in trouble. Probably gonna smoke the dog shit out of you, make you do push-ups, sprints, whatever they can think of, because you're not supposed to have that item, right? Once you do that, it's cool. You go in, you're gonna be tested for the COVID-19, right? They're gonna make sure you're good, you don't have any signs and symptoms. They're gonna ask you some questions. If you do show signs and symptoms, they're gonna put you in like a little quarantine until you test negative. And so you won't really be joining everybody else in yellow phase quite yet until you show like, you're not feeling sick anymore, you don't have signs and symptoms, or you get a negative test result back, right? If you do test negative, then bam, you're going on to yellow phase. You're going over. It's going to be a good time, right? So yellow phase is considered the controlled monitoring phase, which is pretty much where they're watching you, making sure you don't spread the virus around. There's a big emphasis on social distancing, wearing your mask, keeping distance, using less travel, so like not taking a full bus of people, right? You kind of like stagger the seats as well. Also, there's a lot more cleaning involved because you got to sanitize everything, right? You don't want to touch a sink or a faucet handle, right? And then, possibly contract the virus or anything like that. So you're going to be doing a lot of that. They're very particular about it. So keep that in mind. If you hate cleaning, then bam, that's what you're going to be doing, right? Though you're going to be separated into your platoons. Each platoon is going to have around 29 to 30 people. Same with the bays. Bays usually hold about 60 people, but they reduce it to half to help diminish the spread of the virus. So keep that in mind. And what you can expect from yellow phase is a lot of like classroom environments, right? A lot of PT, a lot of just things that are easily done in a controlled monitoring environment. It's really nothing special, nothing fancy. You're just simply biding your time until 2 weeks is over and your quarantine's done pretty much, right? So what kind of stuff are you going to be learning in the classroom environment? So like I said, it's going to take some of the things from like red phase and blue phase. Like in red phase, this is where you're becoming like a soldier, right? This is where you're forgetting all your civilian stuff and learning some Army things, right? So, you know, like the Army song, Soldier's Creed, you know, the 7 Army values, all that stuff you're going to be learning in the classroom during this yellow phase, as well as, you know, some of the stuff you'd learn later on, like in blue phase, like equal opportunity, sharp, and just things like that, right? If you don't know what equal opportunity and sharp is, it's pretty much like stuff that, you know, protects you as a soldier and other soldiers, you know, from like racial discrimination, whether it's against your gender, your sexual orientation, your religion, you know, color of your skin. Sharp is the sexual harassment program that the Army has, right? It pretty much lays out the guidelines of things that are considered big no-nos in the military, right? So you'll be learning a lot of that as well. So as you continue on through yellow phase, which again is only 1 to 2 weeks long, or it's week 1 and week 2, right? You're going to continue to learn this stuff. It's going to give you guys kind of a little more like military bearing, because you're learning this stuff straight out the bat. You're going to be doing a lot of drill and ceremony, customs and courtesies classes, meaning like, oh, like, you know, if there's an officer, what do you do? Like, when's a good time to salute? You know, like, when do you render the greeting of the day? All that type of stuff, right? Drill and ceremony is pretty much your marching, so you're going to learn a bunch of facing movements, you know, like, it's going to be fun. You're going to be doing a lot of that, as well as PT. And then once you get to the end of that 2 weeks, right? It's like week 2, you finish yellow phase. Now you'll go back to in-processing for about 3 days, right? This is where you'll actually complete your vision, your dental, you'll get your ID card, you'll finally get a haircut, right? And then you'll continue on getting your OCPs, because you would have already had your PTs given to you like in the reception battalion, but now you're getting your actual uniform with your boots and all that stuff. So now that you've finished yellow phase, right, you tested negative, you're good to go on to red phase, right? And I actually have it pulled up straight from the Army website itself that covers some of the things you're going to be going over in red phase, right? So just to name them off, and then I'll give you my own 2 cents on it as far as how I experienced and what you guys could possibly experience now in 2021 with coronavirus. So pretty much you're going to be going over the Army's core values, traditions, ethics, but you've already covered some of that in yellow phase, right? So you're good. Now you're going to be going on to assembling, disassembling either your M16, M4, whatever they give you, and then you're going to be going over SEBR and stuff, right? So this means the gas chamber, and we're going to get into that real quick, right? But let me just continue on. Security and crowd dispersion discipline, combatives, hand-to-hand combat and guerrilla exercises, barracks inspections, and running tactical daylight marches and fitness training, right? So let's go ahead and hit on some of these things, right? So combatives, gone. No, you're not doing that because of the whole coronavirus. A lot of people look forward to it. Don't worry, I talked about this in like one of my other videos. Combatives isn't shit in basic training. You do it for like a day and a half, and then, you know, you're done. You really don't learn a whole lot in combatives. People are all butthurt about it, like, oh no, I want the full combatives experience. Don't worry about it. Combatives is shit in basic training. Next is, you know, the gas chamber, right? Hey, let's go ahead and they kind of changed it up. Typically, you would like take off your mask in the gas chamber, and you know, you would have done some exercises beforehand, and you'd be like, okay, cool, like, hey, say the Soldier's Creed or do the Army song, and then you'd have to say it before you could get out of the gas chamber. Now it's you go in, you do a couple exercises, you take off your mask for like what, 10-15 seconds, and then, you know, you put it back on, and then you get out. It kind of takes away. The gas chamber is pretty funny, especially to me, just because it was always cool seeing like people like coughing, like throwing up and shit. But you don't get the full gas chamber experience as well, right? So that's pretty much the basics of red phase. You're not really doing like a whole lot. You've already done most of the classroom stuff in yellow phase anyway, but you're just building on. You're gonna be smoked a lot in this phase, simply because, you know, they're still trying to beat the civilian out of you pretty much. So you gotta get used to that. I mean, we did a lot of push-ups in red phase, like a lot. Anything we did wrong, like push-ups. You'll probably get introduced to your MREs at this point, if you haven't already in yellow phase. Meals ready to eat. You pretty much, the MREs, like I've posted videos about them, that they're the little packaged foods they give you in basic training, right? It's a lot of fun. You also learn like face paint and things like that, and this is where a lot of it comes into it comes in handy, all the stuff you learn in red phase, because to finish off red phase you have your hammer FTX, right? And the hammer is pretty much a 1 day 1 night little field training exercise, and pretty much the hammer just covers like field craft and like field survival things that you would have learned in red phase. You know, this is where like we put on our face paint and things like that. We had to like set up a security perimeter, and it's pretty much what you learn. It's 1 day 1 night. It's really nothing hard. It's just you show up, you know, you set up a security perimeter, you're working on face paint. The way we actually did it, we had like stations pretty much. Like we'd have to like rotate around, you know, tactically, and go to each different station where we learned different like fieldcraft survival techniques pretty much, that you can learn in your like warrior skills level 1 book. It's pretty much what that is they're hitting on that and teaching it to you. That's your hammer FTX, or, you know, back when I went through it was FTX 1, and then, you know, FTX 2, FTX 3, but now it's hammer, anvil, forge, and we'll get into the anvil and the forge coming up once you talk about white and blue phase. All right, but once you do the whole hammer thing, you're kind of like, that's your transition into the white phase, right, which is going to be weeks 5, 6, and 7. So now that you're in white phase, right, I got it pulled up again, just give you an overview of what you're going to be going over, and then I'll talk on it, right? So white phase is also known as the rifleman or gunfighter phase. It focuses on developing your combat skills with a special emphasis on weapons and physical fitness training. You'll learn how to identify, track target, and engage targets with the rifle. It's all about marksmanship. Spending time on these skills also hones your self-discipline and teamwork, right? A rundown of what you're going to cover in white phase is, you know, BRM, basic rifle marksmanship and rifle qualification, zeroing a rifle, engaging targets at various distances from different positions, prioritizing multiple targets simultaneously, hand-to-hand training. We both know that's not going to happen because they got rid of combatives. Repelling the warrior tower, more barracks inspections, continued to study army values, ethics, and traditions, night training, and more fitness training. And then my favorite in white phase is map and compass reading, so land nav, right? And by now you've already gotten a hang of like some of the basic stuff, but to hit on some of the things you'll be covering, right? So going to the range, this is a big part of white phase, simply because this is where people get like the most anxiety, and you know, it starts kind of like testing you a little bit, because you don't want to fail your rifle qualifications, right? If you fail, you could possibly run the risk of getting recycled. They do let you retest, and it is kind of hard to fail, simply because if you do fail like the first time, they give you like extra rounds sometimes on the second time. I know they did that with some trainees through my basic training, like that could not shoot for shit. They're like, okay, just give them like way more mags than they need, right? Are they supposed to do that? Probably not, but they want to see you pass. But still, I think it's, if you can't shoot, you can't shoot. Recycle, go train again, and you're good, right? But I remember doing it too at Fort Sill. This was like, what, in early November, so it was already getting kind of cold. It was rainy, windy, and we all had to qualify under these conditions. It was horrible. Hopefully that's not the case for you, but just know, like it said, you'll be like acquiring targets at different distances, right? So you can have like a 10, the 50 meter, 100 meter, 300 meter, all that type of stuff, and you got to do it from different positions when you're firing at these targets. So it's pretty cool to actually see yourself do all this stuff, right? Also, land nav. Land nav is a big thing. You're gonna be learning a lot about this. It's gonna be like, okay, cool, hey, like they're gonna teach you the class, they're gonna show you how to do it, a couple of mock training exercises, then you actually go out to the land nav range and you kind of actually go through, and you're like, okay, cool, hey, these are my points, I gotta go find them. Usually it'll be with other people. Just don't get lost. You don't want to do that. That did happen to people. We had to go look for them, and you come back, you get like 4 or 5 points, I believe, and then bam, you're good with land nav. You're hitting on other things, right? I think you also did hand grenades during this portion, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it also says rappelling from the tower. I don't know if they're still doing the tower, but if they are, cool. It's like this 40, 50 foot tower. For us, it was called Treadwell Tower. You go up and you're doing the rappelling down. So if you got a fear of heights, be very, very careful. Just don't let it psych you out, just because it's not that bad. It's actually a lot of fun. Some people were like, yo, can I go again? And you know, they would let them go again. It was a fun experience, especially, you know, never doing it before. You learn how to actually tie the knots for the seat that you're going to be like pretty much you're making a seat out of the rope. So you're tying all these knots yourselves. They check you before you go down to the tower, so you're fine. Don't worry. You're gonna be okay. They'll try to scare you, be like, oh yeah, we had like 3 trainees, you know, fall off like last week or whatever. So don't let that psych you out either. You're gonna be fine, okay? Yeah, and that's pretty much White Phase in a nutshell, guys. Honestly, it's just like rifle marksmanship, and also like, you know, just you know, land nav. A couple added things thrown in there, and be prepared to clean your rifle a lot. You're gonna be cleaning this bitch like there's no tomorrow, because they're not gonna let you turn it back in until it's clean. So you're gonna be there for hours, and I mean hours, going through this, right? And once you're done, you're learning everything you need to learn in White Phase, you're moving on to the Anvil FTX, right? So this would be like FTX2 for like back in the day. So during the Anvil, you're pretty much gonna be covering a few things that you've learned in Red Phase and White Phase, and as you continue on through these field exercises, you're applying everything you've learned, right? So the Anvil is gonna hit on, you know, just kind of like reinforcing your land nav skills, you know, on a dismounted position, as well as, you know, patrolling and just doing some of the other things that you've learned. So you're gonna do some like medical lanes now. This was actually pretty fun to do, because, you know, if you're a medic, I mean, for me, it was cool getting to learn some medical things before AIT, and continuing on with the patrolling, doing all that stuff like I said earlier. You're really going to be learning how to work as a team at this point, so you'll be given like leadership positions. When you'll be put in charge, you got to like take your team or your squad, you got to do like these little missions here and there, right? This one is longer. I believe it's like 2 days instead of the 1 day that was, you know, the hammer, so keep that in mind. But other than that, guys, the Anvil really isn't that hard, right? You do some land nav, you do some medical lanes, you do some Seaburn lanes, and you're just hitting on stuff that you've learned throughout White Phase, and, you know, the hammer phase, which was, you know, Red Phase. So keep that in mind. And now once you do the Anvil FTX, you move on to Blue Phase pretty much, and Blue Phase is going to cover a couple of other things. This is where it can be a little easier for you or a little harder for you, right? Depending on your drill sergeants, because they can be like, you know what, these guys are getting too complacent. Because at this point, you're like feeling like hot shit. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm in Blue Phase, baby. I'm about to graduate. Let's go. Like, and you feel like nothing can bring you down, right? Except the drill sergeant. Drill sergeant sees this. He's like, you know what? These guys are getting a little cocky. So they're gonna be nitpicking every single thing you do in Blue Phase. Again, this is like drill sergeant dependent, but ours did it to us, and I feel like a lot of drill sergeants do this. And you mess up, they could like dephase you. They put you back in White Phase. They could take away your little phase flag. Not a good time. Horrible feeling, and you lose privileges, you know, if that happens. But Blue Phase is going to go ahead and cover a couple of other things, right? I'm going to pull it up again. And so this is pretty much where it is, right? This is 8, 9, and 10 weeks of basic training, right? So the final phase of basic training, the Blue Phase or the Warrior Phase, will build up your individual tactical training, increase your leadership skills and self-discipline, improve your understanding of teamwork. It will also include challenges and tests you have to pass in order to graduate from basic training. It's time to dig deep, is what it says on here, right? So you're going to be covering advanced rifle marksmanship, including the use of aiming tools such as lasers. Honestly, I don't think we like ever did that in our basic training. But if you guys do, cool. I mean, it's really nothing cool. Maneuvering and engaging targets as part of a team, guard ethics and standards and continued study to Army values, convoy operations, additional weapons training, machine guns, grenade launchers, and mines, defeating improvised explosive devices, such mines. Again, I don't really think we ever did the whole mine thing. Military operations in urban terrain, so mount training, which is like fighting in a city, the 10K and 15K tactical foot marches, field training exercise in a bivouac where you tie all of your training in together, and then pretty much like your end of cycle test, which is going to be like the forge. It's like the culmination of everything you've learned. You're testing on every single thing you've learned. I believe it's like 212 tasks that you've learned throughout that you're going to be implementing in order to pass this thing, and you know, the ACFT as well being a forge requirement. So a lot of stuff to cover, unpack in this one, right? So for us, Blue Phase, like I said, it was make it or break it, because you know, you're finally here, but your drill sergeant can dephase you if you want, if you're being complacent. So really stay focused, keep your eye on the prize. So that's pretty much blue phase in a nutshell, guys. You're doing all the stuff I just listed off, and it's really building up on your team, like your team building pretty much. You probably would have done Nick and Night by now. You would have done your buddy team live fire. If you don't know what the buddy team live fire is, it's pretty wild. It's like you're moving from objective to objective with, you know, a partner, and you're actually like, they're like firing rounds, suppressing fire pretty much while you're doing these movements. So it's like, all right, cool, this guy's shooting live rounds while I'm moving. Let's hope he's good. It's a fun time. It's super safe. Don't worry about it. The drill sergeant's there monitoring the whole thing. The only thing I remember about that is that it just took forever because everybody had to wait to go. There was like very few lanes open. So granted, which is good because you don't want a bunch of lanes with like less people monitoring your safety, right? At this point, you're still doing your whole social distancing stuff, wearing your mask, all that fun stuff. But overall, like you go through blue phase and then it's bam, it's time for the forge, right? And this is your big culminating event. This is like a 4-day thing. I think it's like 96 hours of just training. You're getting very little sleep. This is where you completely like transform into a soldier, right? That's why it's called the forge, because they're forging you into a soldier, right? That's why they name it after like blacksmith stuff. So the hammer, the anvil, the forge, all stuff that's turning you into this, you know, this killer soldier, right? All this stuff you've been through. About like 9.5 weeks of training at this point, and so the forge is going to cover a good amount of stuff, guys. I'll go ahead and cover that right now. So yeah, guys, the forge overall is like the culminating event. It's about 96, you know, maybe 91 hours of, so like 4 days or so of just, you know, straight up putting everything you've learned, being tested on it, you know, like over 200 different skills that are being applied and like you're being graded on, and it's crazy because you're getting very little sleep. And you know, the stuff you're doing like patrols, you're doing security, you're doing team building exercises, you're giving like ethical dilemmas that you have to solve. And really, your drill sergeants aren't even like in your face about it. They're not really even there like holding your hand anymore. They put you in charge, right? They pick certain individuals. They're like, oh, you're in charge, cool, you're in charge, you're in charge, you're in charge, awesome. And you know, you guys are supposed to conduct whatever the mission is that you have to conduct, right? It's gonna be a little grueling because of the lack of sleep. You're gonna be getting less sleep than what you've been used to in basic training. You're probably get like maybe 4 hours a night, if that. I remember them constantly keeping us up. Granted, I did FTX 3. You guys are doing the Forge, right? Pretty sure they're the same in terms of the sleep. The lack of sleep you're gonna be getting is just minimal, guys. You're gonna be getting almost no sleep. But once you do all this, right, you go through the Forge, and if you guys want a more in-depth video on the Forge, let me know. I can make one and devote my time to it, but this is just an overview, right? This is just like, hey, some of the stuff you're going to cover, which is everything that you've pretty much done in basic training. And once you do the Forge, the final event, right, you're at whatever final destination point that your basic training is going to call it, and you're going to get your beret. You're going to put your beret on for the first time since being in basic training to signify that, you know, you've become a soldier and, you know, hey, you made it. And then you do like, what, a 15K ruck march back to your base. You're going to be doing a lot of ruck. I believe total in the Forge, it's going to be like 45 plus miles that you would have, you know, walked or, you know, marched or rucked, whatever, right? Because the Forge is a big thing. You're going to be doing a lot of rucking, marching, so keep that in mind. And then you finish it off with your final like ruck march, and then bam, you're a soldier. End of blue phase pretty much. And then now you're cleaning your equipment, getting ready for graduation, turning your stuff in, and then family day comes around. There's no family day really, and then graduation day comes around, and then you ship off to OSIT, AIT. It's a fun time, right? Hands all around, you're a soldier now. So there it is, guys. That's a quick overview of pretty much everything you would have done in basic training in all the phases: yellow phase, red phase, white phase, blue phase. Again, it was just a quick little overview. If you guys want an in-depth video on each phase, let me know. I'll try to get some more super up-to-date information. I'm talking like people that graduated from basic training last week or something, but this is just in general what you can expect in 2021 from these phases. If I was off about a couple things, I doubt it's detrimental. I promise you, like, basic training is easy, guys. You go in there with a positive mindset, you're going to be fine. You're going to seize the day, you're going to win, right? just keep in mind, stay focused, don't lose focus, because if you do, it's pretty easy to get recycled. You know, they don't want people that are not ready to graduate, so they'll try and do what they can to make sure you're recycled and or, you know, properly trained before sending you off to AIT or OSIT, wherever it is you're going, right? I really hope you guys appreciated this video. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're brand new here and you took anything away from this video. But yeah, thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. I'll put some videos here on the screen that you can check out. Be sure to check out my Instagram at Ben_Allen175. And yeah, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Later.